It's me, Ronald Reagan, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Babby.
Mm.
We have a slam dunk episode, as always. Week 8 of Simian's Summer Marathon. Just a few more weeks, and then I'll be free of this monkey's curse. Someone did a monkey's paw on me to watch
There
a
you go.
bunch of monkey movies. And I'm almost free. I don't know what the bad thing they got in exchange for their monkey's paw is. Hopefully nothing too serious, because I've been kind of enjoying myself. But I guess that's the point. The point is that you're supposed to get something good and you don't get something good in return. So, I don't know. But I watched Bedtime for Bonzo this week, the hit film starring Ronald Reagan and a little chimpanzee named Bonzo. His name was actually Bonzo. He was playing himself. Very impressive. You don't see many
Baller.
monkeys playing themselves. I don't know what Shakma's name was. Maybe it was Shakma. I don't know. But yeah, I thought this week, well, I guess two things. I was like, it would be great to pair a movie starring a weirdo white nationalist with a movie about a unique take on the trans identity. So I watched The People's Joker along with Bedtime for Bonzo. And uniquely enough, they were both incredibly left leaning. I guess for the time, Bedtime for Bonzo. Let's talk about Bedtime for Bonzo because it's really bad and boring. It's definitely like a B movie. I think it came out in the 50s, or maybe it was the 60s. I don't remember. It's that period. It's I want to say it's a drive-in movie. It's not a horror movie, but it doesn't feel like a real movie at the same time. It's definitely really cheap. And there's some weird stuff in it. But basically, Ronald Reagan is a psychology professor at a college, and one of his friends is a kooky German scientist who I can only assume is in the college from Operation Paperclip. Um, that's the one where they airdrop Nazis into the U.S., right?
Yes.
Okay, then yes, my joke stands. Maybe I should have looked it up because then that would have been funnier.
Nope, that's correct.
Okay. Whatever. I'm assuming that the kooky scientist that owns an ape was once a Nazi, that's just my headcanon, but it's probably true. So he owns a fun ape and he's friends with Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan is dating the president of the college's daughter, and he's trying to marry her, but, and this is why I say that this movie is incredibly left-leaning, and that's partially sarcastic, is because I'm pretty sure that this guy is a full-on eugenicist, because he's like, Ronald Reagan, you're trying to date my daughter, but we all know that your dad was a huge thief and criminal and con man, and we all know that you carry the bad genes from your father, and if you have kids with my daughter, then it stands to reason that your kids are also going to be thieves and con men. That's like the whole like eugenicist thing where it's like you inherit the bad stuff from your parents and therefore only the right people should be breeding. And I'm pretty sure that's actually what the movie is commenting on, and how it's like portraying that as the bad guy, where it's like, hey, this is an outdated way of thinking. Um, and so that's why Ronald Reagan is like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to prove this eugenicist wrong by raising a monkey as my own child. And that will prove that eugenics is false. If I can raise a monkey to be a little boy that knows manners, then that means that if I bang this chick and I have kids, then they won't be like my dad, who was a criminal. It's kind of convoluted. You can tell that they were just like, "Hey, we got a monkey," and Ronald Reagan. How do we make it so there's like fun hijinks where the monkey is in this dude's house, and they have like fun hijinks where he pretends to be his dad. I know. We'll do this eugenics thing, and it'll be fun. But Ronald Reagan, he's you know what he's all about? He's about those strong family values. And so he knows that he won't be able to raise the monkey by himself. So he's like, I need to hire a lady who has maternal instincts, who will want to take care of this monkey as if he is a little boy. And so he tries getting a bunch of people, a bunch of older ladies that would be age appropriate for a 40 something year old Ronald Reagan. And he's like, damn, none of them wanted to raise a monkey as a little boy. This is so disappointing to me. And then, wouldn't you know it, a young 21-year-old blonde woman comes in and is like, I will help raise a monkey as a little boy. And what follows is a thrilling romance between someone who is twice the age of the other person, um, and also the older guy is in a relationship that he's trying to I think he's still trying to marry her by the end of it. Like that's the end goal, is so that he can prove the dad wrong, but also he's falling in love with a 21-year-old. So I don't know. Also, I want everyone to know that I'm not just like estimating that she's 21. She says outright in the movie that she's like, "Well, I'm almost 22." So like she's explicitly supposed to be 21, which I don't know why they made that distinction. Maybe it's good that like she's of age, because that definitely was not a guarantee back then. Um, but it definitely is still weird. They fall in love and then they raise a little monkey as a little boy. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of the movie. There's hijinks. The little monkey wears clothes. And honestly, all of the times in the movie where the monkey wasn't there were very boring, and they didn't need to be there. It really should have just been an hour of monkey hijinks, as all of these movies should have been. But this movie is still pretty good. He does a lot of backflips, which is pretty sick. I don't know if they trained him to do that or if that's just something that monkeys do. If they get excited, they just kind of do a backflip. It was kind of sick. They had him in like a crib, and you know, you might think, oh, the monkey's just gonna climb out of the crib and then like leave, but the monkey didn't do that. It climbed on the the like wall of the crib and then just did backflips back into the crib. I'm like, that's kind of sick. The monkey's just like chilling and doing sick stunts. And that just continues throughout the entire movie. He's pretty much always doing parkour, which that monkey is ahead of its time. Um, but I don't know. I kept having like a creeping feeling throughout this entire movie where I'm like, was this monkey like shot at the end of this? Because it's like a baby monkey, and like I don't know. I don't trust that animal handlers in the 50s like took proper care of the animals after they got old, and I just got worried for the fate of Bonzo. So if anyone knows the fate of the Bonzo monkey, I would appreciate it if you could drop it in the comments, because I'm curious and I wasn't able to find anything. So this is my call to action. Not to drive engagement. I don't care about that. I want to know what happened to the monkey, because it was a pretty sick monkey. I have to assume he has since passed because it's been 70 years, and I'm pretty sure everyone else in the movie died, including the Nazi guy. Well, definitely the Nazi guy. He's the oldest guy in the movie. But I think most definitely the 21-year-old died. I think she died in like the 70s. She didn't live to be very old. Um, Probably a hit from Ronald Reagan. I can only assume. But I think I did put in like my Letterboxd review, just as a little funny quip to close out this review, that I'm like, the only way that they could make Ronald Reagan look like the good guy is to put him up against a literal Nazi. And I think that that's just funny. All in all, this movie has a lot of fun monkey hijinks and therefore gets 8 out of 10 monkey points, which means that the movie with the most monkey points is the one that stars Ronald Reagan. So unfortunately, Ronald Reagan has won another campaign of sorts.
In a blowout.
In a blowout. Well, actually, Shakma has 7. So
Okay.
Bedtime for Bonzo just barely kind of edges out Shakma. But I have a feeling that these next ones they might have more monkey points. I don't know. Next week, we are going to be watching What Did Jack Do? Which is actually very topical because David Lynch is in the news. I guess it won't be topical next week, but yeah. Did you see all the David Lynch shenanigans?
I did, and I have to read everything in his voice, which is just like that's just how I every time I read something by him, I have to read it in his voice. And it was the most David Lynch statement you could make.
Oh,
So
absolutely. It's
yeah.
like he wrote it like from his voice. Like you
Yeah.
can tell it's like from
Hmm.
him. I guess maybe just we'll talk about it because it's kind of fun. Well, not really, but the tweet
No,
is
but
funny.
like yeah.
Yeah, so like it came out earlier this week that like David Lynch is unable to direct in person anymore because of emphysema, which he has. I think the concern with it being that like if he were to catch COVID or something, it's
Mhm.
most certainly a life sentence. So he has to be very careful around large groups of people, and that's why he can't direct in person anymore. But in response to that, he tweeted, and I'll just read it verbatim. I won't do the voice because I won't be able to do it justice. I'll just read it. His statement was, "Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I have emphysema from my many years of smoking. I have to say that I enjoyed smoking very much, and I do love tobacco. The, sm- the smell of it, lighting cigarettes on fire, smoking them, but there is a price to pay for this enjoyment, and the price for me is emphysema," which is just crazy. He's like, eh,
It's so good.
I miss smoking. You can tell he misses smoking so
I
much.
don't regret it at all.
I have now quit smoking for over 2 years. Recently, I had many tests, and the good news is that I am in excellent shape, except for the emphysema. I am filled with happiness, and I will never retire. I want you all to know that I really appreciate your concern. Love, David. Um, I just
He's a
love that.
treasure.
He is a treasure. I love that he's like, I will never retire. Never. Um, yeah, I love that. So yeah, we'll be watching one of his movies next week. It's a short one. It's a little short film where he interrogates a monkey.
Mhm.
What did Jack do? I think it might be the most recent David Lynch thing. I think it might have come out after Twin Peaks.
I
Um,
think so.
if I
Yeah.
remember right. Let me see. Oh, actually, never mind. What Did Jack Do came out in
Was it before 2017?
2017.
Oh, the same year. Okay.
Okay, so actually, I don't. Then I don't know. What Did Jack Do came out in November of 2017, so it might have come out like
Okay.
right after
Probably
season
later.
3.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it is just 17 minutes. But there's a monkey, so it counts for Simian's summer. So check it out. And there's basically no excuse for you not to watch it because it's only 17 minutes long. So I don't know if I'll have much to talk about, but we will be talking about it. But to pair the bedtime for Bonzo, I watched The People's Joker. Also, it kind of worked in kind of twofold because it's about a trans person, and I don't think Ronald Reagan would have liked that. But also, the new Batman show came out, the Caped Crusader show, and the People's Joker is about Joker. So it kind of worked as a little double. So it was nice. But I was interested in watching this movie. Well, actually, let me go back further. So this movie came out in theaters, like little art house theaters, at least in my art house theater, like 6 months ago. I think I saw it like on the listings around the same times that, when I first saw Hundreds of Beavers. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh no. Like, you see the cover of it and it says The People's Joker, and it's like someone dressed up as the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. And I'm like, oh no, is this gonna be like some cringy, like Joker core video or like documentary about the Joker core stuff? I'm not interested in that. And I kind of just like moved on with my life. But then I saw like film reviewers and film podcasts that I respect their opinions of talk about it. And when I listen to them, they're like, oh, yeah, this is like the most unique and like thought provoking movie I've ever seen about the trans experience. And I'm like, in a movie called The People's Joker, where she dresses up as the Joker. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I decided to check it out. And when I looked at the cast, I was immediately interested. It does have cameos from Bob Odenkirk and Tim Heidecker. So, two very funny fellas that I like a lot. But also, a pretty major part is David Liebehart.
Yo.
Yeah. One of our favorites from the Tim and Eric Awesome Show and Beef House, the best show ever, probably.
Hmm.
Um, he's in the movie and he's like actually in it quite a bit, which is cool. Um, he's like actually acting, which is kind of interesting. um, but yeah, I guess I should probably talk about like what this movie is because I think that might be the biggest hurdle to like watching it because you see the poster, it's a lot of like Batman imagery. I don't think you necessarily have to know all of the Batman stuff. Um, Actually, you don't need to at all, but it is a nice like framing thing. It's very interesting. So it's like a autobiographical story about Vera Drew, who is the, I think, writer, director, and then star. Her experiences as a young person and kind of discovering that she's trans, and then kind of coming to terms with that as someone who's wanting to get into comedy and show business, um, and breaking into that lane. But she's doing it under the kind of she's using Batman imagery and Gotham City as a setting to kind of like make it accessible in a way. So she's playing, I think, well, she's just credited as Joker, but I think she's like Joker the Harlequin. So like it's kind of a combination of being Joker and Harley Quinn. And then like the person that she opens her like comedy thing with is the Penguin. Um, and like let me see, like David Liebehart is like a comedy legend, and he's playing Ra's al Ghul, which is kind of a niche. Well, I guess not super niche because it's Liam Neeson in Batman Begins, but it isn't like one that most people know, I don't think. Um, and then there's like the big bad guy is Batman, um, who I'm not entirely sure who is like actually supposed to be portrayed because there's like you can tell that like some of it is like kind of clearly referencing other people. Lorne Michaels is just a character in the movie that's kind of openly transphobic. I don't know if Lorne Michaels is transphobic. Frankly, I don't know much about the guy. He might be. He's from that. He's been in the show business for like 50 years, so he probably is. But I don't know. Maybe not. Um, so I don't know. But it's just kind of using Batman characters and stuff to I guess that's what it is. Just to kind of make it more accessible and be like, oh, this is the bad guy, and the bad guy to Joker would be Batman, and so that's kind of the representation of all the bad stuff is gonna be, Joker's counterpart. But really, the meat of the story is kind of interesting, where like she grew up in a kind of conservative, I think Midwestern town. Her mom was super controlling. And once, like, she asked her mom about like wanting to say, "Oh, well, was I born in the wrong body? Sometimes I feel like that." Her mom immediately ships her off to like conversion therapy and like gets her high on drugs. So a lot of her childhood is like on these like hard substances that so she doesn't really remember most of it. Um, and so then, she like has that upbringing, and then once she moves from her, I she says she's from Smallville, which is where Clark Kent is from, and then she moves to Gotham City to get into comedy. Um, and then that's when she kind of breaks out and like kind of starts experimenting with like cross dressing and I guess like maybe drag performances. um yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to talk about because I don't really want to say too much. It's kind of a newer movie, so I don't really want to go through beat for beat what happens, but that's kind of the gist of it. It's a very interesting film, um, from someone who I'll say, like, I know Tim Heidecker is in it and David Liebehart is in it. It's pretty clear that there's a lot of like Tim and Eric influence, and like it feels very weird. And at some, it doesn't really like bleed into like the random XD stuff that some of the Tim and Eric stuff does. But like there's moments where like her face does like the morph thing that they do on Awesome Show, where like they'll like stretch someone's mouth to be a smile and make their eyes big for like 1 second for like a goof. Although she doesn't do it for a goof, she does it more to like show how the drugs that her mom was making her take were affecting her. Kind of like an allegory for like the smile gas that I guess Joker has. Um, yeah, it's a weird one. I think it is kind of off-putting. It kind of makes it in the way that it tried to make it accessible by using like, you know, iconography that most people can recognize, almost makes it less accessible because it's kind of hard to like grasp what's going on at points where I'm like, I think the allegory to Batman is a little bit too strong where like I'm trying to figure out like what's happening, where like she's like kind of describing a relationship with her first like relationship that she was in as a trans person, and like she's like goes to like Ace Chemicals with them and like takes the dip into like a chemical vat. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get that this is like an allegory for like going to the doctor and maybe like getting like estrogen supplements or something. um but like there's just a lot, and then like Batman shows up and the cops are like trying to kill them, and I'm like, I, I don't know, I feel like this would have been maybe better if like you showed the reality of it, but also it's quirky and weird and fun. So I don't know, there was a lot of stuff that I liked about it. I think that her story is important and needs to be told, and other stories like it obviously need to be told. um, but man, I don't know if I completely got it. Um, and this is coming from someone who loves Awesome Show and loves weird, quirky stuff like that. Um, but Tim and Eric weren't trying to tell a pretty serious message through the quirk. They were just trying to be goofy. So it's this interesting kind of tone that Vera Drew strikes, that I'm not completely accustomed to. But I think on rewatches, I think I would get it and it would click a little bit faster. But I think it just took a long time to like get used to the style. Um, so yeah, I would recommend it. It's not on anything. I think it's renting now, but it's like when I was looking at it before, it was like $20 to rent, and now it's down to like, regular $4 or $5, depending if you want it on HD or whatever. Um, so I would recommend it. It's not super long. It's an hour and a half. Um, but yeah, I think I just need to warn you. There's it's different. It's very different. Um, yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So check out The People's Joker. You don't have to watch Bedtime for Bonzo. You don't have to. You can. You could. I don't really think there's a reason to. Whether you love or hate Ronald Reagan, there's not. You don't get anything from Bedtime for Bonzo, except a little creeped out that he's dating a 21-year-old. Um, but I think there's a lot of stuff you can take away from The People's Joker. But that's mostly everything I want to talk about. I have seen the first 2 episodes of The Caped Crusader. I've not seen all of them. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more in depth once I see them all. But after seeing the first 2 episodes, I like it a lot. It's the same guy who did, or at least directed and creatively led by the same guy who did the Batman animated series from the 90s, which is probably one of the best Batman adaptations just in general, I think. And that definitely shows. It rides this line of being not like too adult, where it's not like The Dark Knight or The Batman, but it also like isn't for kids. It's this kind of like middle ground that takes itself seriously but isn't like so dark and edgy that I feel like that gets a little bit played out. I like it. I like this in between. Um, and there's still like stakes. Like people die. Like the Penguin murders her son in like the first episode, and it's like kind of intense. Which yes, Penguin is a woman now. Get used to it.
The woke.
The they woke the
They
Penguin.
woke the penguin.
Yeah. Which I will say this: I don't care, but like I don't like the whole gender swap thing. Not for the reason that all of the weirdo conservatives don't like the gender swap thing. I'm like, okay, you took a character that already exists and then you're just like, make it female. But it's like, why not just like make a new character that like is just a female character? Like the only reason that Penguin is a female is because there aren't enough female antagonists in the Batman universe. And so it's like, oh, well, we have to have this be somewhat diverse. Let's just take a recognizable character that people like and we'll just make it female. Wow. That just feels kind of lazy. It's like, well, just make a new one. I would be pro that. I'm not anti female character. I'm just it just feels lazy. Um, but I do like that the show it takes place in the 20s, like actually, or I guess an alternate 20s where a lady would be allowed to be a lawyer or a detective. So like a not it's in the 20s, but it ignores all of the discrimination and prejudice, which honestly I'm for because the aesthetics of the 20s are pretty cool. Just all of the stuff surrounding it is not. So, yeah, just get rid of it. Just it's like it has today's sensibilities, but it has the cool stuff from the 20s, and I like it. So, I'll give a more in-depth review once I'm done with it, but initial impressions are very good. It is a little bit weird that Kevin Conroy. I know that there's nothing they could do, but it's gonna take some time to get used to not Kevin Conroy as Batman, because he's probably the best. Honestly, he might be the best at playing Batman. Period. Better than every single live action Batman. Like he got the character and he just did it voice, and it's very very impressive. Same with Mark Hamill Joker. I know we're not going to be getting Mark Hamill Joker again because he's like, I don't want to do it if Kevin Conroy's not there, and it feels weird doing it when he's not. So I'm just not going to do it, which is fair. And I kind of respect that decision, but I think that he's the best Joker too, so it's very disappointing as a fan of those two. Um, but I don't think that the new guy playing Batman is doing a bad job at all. It just takes some getting used to. So that's that. I'm gonna pass it on to Babby now for his segment of the show.
Yay. Okay, we got a bit today.
What? A bit?
A bit. A couple, a few, a bundle even. Um, let's start with. Hmm. Well, there's a lot of stuff that came out this week. I did not get to everything. First off, we had a new Paranormal record that's out. Um, not on Spotify. You have to get it through Bandcamp.
Oh.
So I've not checked that one out yet. But I will probably do that soon. Um, I've been, I enjoy some Paranormal stuff. Not as crazy about them as like everybody would probably think I would be, being into loud, noisy stuff and shoegaze. Um, but I just think some of their stuff hasn't clicked for me quite yet. But maybe this one will. I know Album
Mm.
of the Year goes nuts for these guys for some reason. Um, but yeah, I will check that out eventually. We also got the David Lynch dropped an album
Yes, he
this week.
did.
I've not gotten to it yet, but I'll probably get to it for next week.
I don't
It's only
know.
like 35 minutes,
Oh.
so
I know it's a collab
it's
album.
it is, yes. It's with Krista Bell, which I do not really know anything about her,
I don't either.
or but in typical David Lynch fashion, I did not expect to. Um, we also got a Killer Mike record under
Oh.
the name Michael and the Mighty Midnight Revival, which I'm guessing is
Okay.
some group of players or producers or something. Um, I'm kind of done listening to Killer Mike, so I don't think I'll listen to this at all. But it did come out. I don't know. He just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and it's just one of those things where I understand that I will not be looking at this with a lens that I would find appropriate to talk about on a public forum where I like, because it's not going to be genuine. I have very jaded thoughts about Killer Mike as of late, so I'll probably pass on that one. But we did get a lot of stuff though. I think first off, Soccer Mommy, new single, M. Great name for a song.
M.
M. This is the second single off of her new record that was just announced. Um, that'll be Evergreen. Comes out October 25th. I'm very
Nice.
excited. And M is about 10 times better than Lost, the first single.
Oh yeah. I was not a
So
super big fan of Lost.
I was also not. I felt like it was kind of a Phoebe Bridgers kind of run of the mill indie folk cut, which is very popular at the moment,
Mm.
obviously. And I didn't not really find the soccer mommy magic in it at all. That's a great sentence.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
but M is perfect soccer mommy magic song.
Mm.
It's great. It's fantastic. Um, we have her kind of signature, like a little bit more 90s alternative twinge to kind of this indie rock, indie folk style. And it works really well. The lyrics are fantastic. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited for this new record. It looks like it's got 11 tracks, 40 minutes, typical. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for it. We'll definitely do this on the channel. I think Sometimes Forever is still a very underrated. What are you people doing? Um,
We're
so
all
I'm very
cowards.
excited that she's back because I needed some more. Um, yeah, we also got a snail mail song. I did
Yeah.
not listen to it. It's just for a TV show, so it's not like a real like. I don't think it was a full full
No,
vision.
it's not
Um,
very good.
yeah, and it's how the ratings weren't too great.
Yeah.
Please come back. I need an album from Snail Mail. With her amount of talent, it's like criminal that she only has 2 records out right
Yes.
now. At least with Phoebe, she's got like Boy Genius and other like groups that she's doing, so she's like active. I feel like Lindsay Jordan just like kind of fell off the map, and I'm like, I need new music
Yeah.
eventually here. Um, but yeah, very excited for the Sakamami record. We'll be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
King Gizzard this week. We'll be doing a reaction to that.
What?
Very excited. Um,
Me too.
yeah, they released a third single. Not listening to it because I don't usually listen to the singles that come out the same week as the album, um, for obvious reasons. Especially when your album's only 3 tracks or 10 tracks. So, yeah, I we'll skip that for now, but we'll have a video on it. I will say the two singles I've heard are incredible, so I have high hopes for this thing. So
Yes.
that's coming. There was a thing that came out today. Drake shared 100 gigabytes of just everything. Why? I don't know. There's like some new tracks in there. There's some old versions of things. There's like video behind the scenes stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know why he did this. It feels really weird. But that's a thing that happened.
It
100
is.
gigabytes is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of
That's like
music.
that's one Call of Duty game. But yeah, that's a thing. Um, the Weekend teaser trailer, I suppose,
Yeah.
for what is his final album, um,
Ever?
under the Weekend name.
Oh,
I'm
is that
assuming
right?
that's what that means. Yeah, I think so. But he's marketing it as the final album. Um, the music video definitely alludes to that. A lot of teasers in there and a lot of callbacks for the real Weekend fans. But yeah, there's some new music played in it, and it sounded pretty good. Sounds very cinematic. Sounds like a movie score almost, and it's sounding pretty good. So I'm very excited for this. I don't know. I would assume we'd start getting stuff for this relatively soon. This is the second teaser he's done for this. I think he did a teaser to the teaser because you know he's
Mhm.
been very cinematic with the last two records, so he's kind of following the movie industry with that one, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for this. The music's sounding good. If it's a final record, then it should be a blast. So we'll keep you updated on that if
Yeah.
anything happens. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming out though. We got the Charlie and Billy collab, the guest remix with Billie Eilish off of the Brat Deluxe.
What?
I think this is part of a bigger Brat remix album because there's been three remixes at this point, and I feel like she's just gonna remix the whole record. I think that would be fantastic. This record has already had a fantastic life and presence to it that a pop album has not had in many, many, many years. Um, and I think there's a ton of people that would be great on a lot of various tracks on the thing. So, but it's a cool remix. I still think I like the original track better. I think Billy works on this track. It's just it's more fun than anything. I think the whole point of remixes is to have a little moment and be fun. Um, I'm usually not a big fan of remixes. It's pretty solid though, and there's a music video with it and everything. So, but that was definitely a moment with those two. So that happened this week. We also had a new Adrian Lenker single today.
What?
Once a bunch, yes. I think this is a just like a leftover from the last record, or it's hinting at a deluxe of Bright Future. I'm not sure,
Oh.
but it's pretty sick. I know it's like it would fit on the main album. I understand why it was taken off. It's a little bit. It doesn't match the tone as much as that record, but it is very sweet. It's very cute. I enjoy it a lot. It definitely has a lot of the country twang and Americana to it, which is pretty sick. So yeah, check
Nice.
that one out.
I did not know
Very
that that
excited.
dropped.
Yeah, it was kind of just randomly put out there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Um, but yeah, fantastic record. So check out that. Check out the single. What are you doing? Gotta do that.
Okay, I will.
And then other news: Elucid, new record coming, October 11th. This is like just announced as well. This will be his debut under Fat Possum, which is interesting. Um, Diabetic Test Strips from Arm& Hammer was released on Fat Possum last year. Um, so this is an interesting kind of development from Backwoods because I think Billy Woods also has one on Fat Possum as well. I think Maps was on Fat Possum. So it's interesting how they're kind of splitting uh, what they're putting on Backwoods and what they're putting on Fat Possum. So, oh, Maps was a Backwoods actually. Interesting. Yeah, but it seems like they're kind of going back and forth depending on the release. Maybe Elucid will just become a Fat Possum artist, which I could see. Um, but I am very excited for this. We did get podcast timing, so the first single drops tonight. Um, so I'll talk about it next week, but we get podcast timing on it. But I think Bad Pollen featuring Billy Woods is the single that comes out. Very excited to see what he does with this thing. He's always so far left field in hip hop, especially on his solo records where he can just go crazy. So I am very excited for that. So I'll be talking about that when that comes out extensively. Okay, albums. I think that was all the singles that came out. I think so. Two big albums this week, and we had the Peggy album, but that will be up on the channel soon. So
Absolutely.
I will save my thoughts on that, even though my thoughts like are kind of shifting and changing, and
Oh.
it's a record that I'm thinking about a lot,
Hmm.
um, and I have interesting feelings about it. But you'll have to wait for the retrospective and the video for that. So
Yes. Watch our content.
watch our content while you're listening to our content or after. Um,
Yes.
I guess we'll just start with Vultures too, because I don't want to end it on a sour note. Um, yeah, this came out on Saturday, I think. Yeah, I think a big reason Peggy dropped his album early on Thursday was because he knew this was coming out. Um, that wasn't blatantly obvious at the time, but I feel like more people should have picked up on the fact that like this was definitely coming out because Peggy moved his release date up, and uh, I think a website for Vultures or something was saying that August 2nd was the day. Of course, it didn't come out August 2nd; it came out August 3rd. Um, but I feel like more people should have saw that coming. I definitely didn't because I did not care. Um, so this is Vultures 2. Obviously, Vultures 1 not great.
Uh,
That came out in February. I gave it a 10 out of 100. It's
oh,
awful.
that
It's
high.
terrible. Yeah, that high. Just because there was there was some remnants of like some sort of song creation happening in some parts of the record. Um, it was all pretty awful still, but like there was some semblance of like, okay, I can see this being like a really big, like pretty decent song if it was actually like taken care of and done correctly. Um, Vultures 2, I don't know why this exists. It doesn't really make sense why they're doing this. So there wasn't really like a narrative at all for the first Vultures. There was at least some semblance of like what they were talking about. Um, I mean, it wasn't anything good or like meaningful, but there was at least some sort of like bad boy angle to it, where it was like we're outcasts, we've been shunned by the world because rightfully so. Um, but Vultures 2 just seems like a collection of songs with no purpose or meaning. Um, the mix on here is just as bad as the first one, even worse at some points. Um, I think the first song is probably like the only real song that actually turned into something. I know they've been updating it like live as the album is up. They're just gonna start updating the songs, which again, this model from Kanye is the worst model I've ever seen. Because you drop an unfinished product and then you expect me to come back to it whenever you update things. I'm never touching this thing again in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was enough to do it once. I can't bring myself to come back at all to this. Not like I was planning on doing that anyways. I knew how bad this was going to be based off of the first one. Um, but Slide is like a decent song, I suppose. Um, but after that, it goes downhill really quickly. The mixing on it is so awful. The drums are like incredibly loud on some tracks, and there's like little like sound effects they put in the beat or like little synth hits and like effects like that, and they're always mixed so loud that it becomes so incredibly annoying because you just have this beeping in your ear for the whole tracks. It's really really it's beyond awful. This is an album where it like should just like straight up not exist. Um, Kanye is not really talking about anything on here. Every time he comes on, he makes the track significantly worse. I mean, Ty Dolla Sign at least sings, so
Yeah.
that's cool, I guess. And there are some features on here. I think Lil Wayne, Future, Young Thug, the usual kind of cast that you would think of for a Kanye record is mostly here and there. Um, and they sometimes add something to the track, but again, I think the issue with this record and why like Vultures 1 is at least like a 10 out of 100 is because like there's at least a baseline and like an actual lifeblood to the track where people can actually hop on it and do something. Like Freddie Gibbs was able to like go off a lot on that, like what that track he was featured on last record. Uh, and the one with Playboy Cardi and Travis Scott, there was at least a foundation of a song to go off of. This one feels so incredibly lifeless and fake. Like it feels like a human did not even make this. It feels like a Taylor Swift like dropping another like first memo draft for $30 just over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really bad.
Oh man.
It's so bad that like I can't even pick out a lot of moments. I think Bomb is the worst track here. Um, Bomb is there's no Kanye on this track, which is good. The issue is there's too little Kanye's on this track. I think we have North and Chicago West on this song, um, and it's their attempt to make like a rap song. I still don't understand the trend of putting your children on rap albums. Um,
I don't.
Nobody really wants to hear it. Like it's kind of cute, but at the same time, it's like if I'm actually gonna listen to like one of these albums where your kid's on it, I'm gonna skip the song. It takes me out of the flow of a rap album. I think the one exception to this is the Gambino song with his son on his new record because that is genuinely a great song. That is genuinely a song where if you had a child, you could play that around your kid and sing along to it and make it like a moment between two people because it sounds like it was made from a kid into for something that a kid would like to listen to, but that a parent could also attach to. It's like an old Disney song or something. I think he did really good on that track. But this is just two of Kanye's children on a lifeless beat with the most annoying hook, and both of them do it. Like North just says bomb and then says something in Japanese, and then just it's over and over and over again. And then Chicago is like a 4 year old or a 3 year old, so he sounds like a 4 year old or a 3 year old trying to rap, and it's atrocious. It's awful. Nobody wants to hear that. I'm sorry. Um, it ruined. Yeah, it's awful. Um, and then we get to 5:30, which we've found out that this is like an AI Kanye West type beat that they literally YouTube to MP3 because like the bit rate for the track is like 128 kilobytes or whatever. So it's a very low quality audio, and then Kanye is somewhat rapping over it, but then he kept the mumble in because his writing style is he mumbles out melodies and then attaches lyrics to things later. Um, he has mumbles on the final cut of this record, like he just trails off. Um, I also forgot to talk about husband. Okay, husband is like the one of the worst things I've ever heard. It's incredibly demeaning and incredibly misogynistic and incredibly just awful.
What?
And it's on here twice. So it's on the track Husband, which is 2 minutes, and then
Mhm.
Lifestyle follows it up. So Lifestyle is its own song for about half of the song, and then the Husband song just plays after it again in the track, and I don't understand because
What?
I thought I was going crazy because I'm like, okay, this is Husband, this is the worst thing I've ever heard, and then it goes into Lifestyle. I'm like, okay, this is also really bad, and then Husband starts playing again, and I'm like, what? There's no way you put the same song in there twice. Um,
That's insane.
yeah. So this thing is awful. Um, it should not exist. It literally feels like nobody cares about this. Like I don't understand how you can like put your name on this and be like, yeah, I'm glad I did something with this. Um, and if you like this thing, you are literally like you are delusional. You are kidding yourself. There is nothing here. I know that music is subjective, but this is past subjectivity. This is unfinished. There is no musical sensibility in like 80% of this record. And the 20% that it is incredibly poorly mixed, performed awful. The lyrics are terrible. Um, Ty Dolla Sign does what he can, I guess. But like, even then, I still have the opinion that Ty Dolla Sign's kind of one note. Um, but he's still the best part of the record, I suppose, because he actually is attempting to do something. Um, but yeah, do not listen to this unless you really just like need to have a moment. I mean, I guess if you want to listen to this before you listen to like literally any other album, it'll make the album you listen to after it like feels so much better. So I mean that's a plus, I guess. This gets a 5 out of 100. I think it should
Wow.
not exist.
That seems high.
It does seem a little high. Um, I could give it I could give it a 0, but you know,
What's
Five
what's
sounds good to me.
what's the redeeming? What's the one little thing that this album does right?
Um, it makes me like there's a certain like selfish quality of watching someone fall so far from grace and be so like in his own head, just miserably fail. That gives me a little bit of like a 5 point to add to it because I'm like I kind of enjoyed how much he just really floundered this thing. There's entertainment value in watching that. I think. Um, I think that's it though. If you're asking what's a 0 out of 100, I will say Vultures 3 whenever that comes out because there's no way he has anything left in the tank.
Well,
He didn't have
yeah.
anything left in the tank after the first one.
Well, he named the first one Vultures 1, so he had to follow
Yeah.
it up.
Oh yeah. There's a plan to have three of these. Um,
3?
yeah.
The heck?
So the third one will be the 0 or the 1 out of 100
Yeah,
probably.
you think so?
Yeah. Because
Maybe.
this is one of the most creatively bankrupt things I've heard. Both of them. um, I revisited Donda too because I'm like, was Donda like really like
Wait.
that? And I'm like, yeah, it is a good record, and
Oh,
it perfectly shows the flaws of Kanye and his own ego getting in the way of him making like a genuinely one of his best records. And I think there's a good quality to that um, when it comes to just like the energy around a record and the way around it because there's so much life in that record. It's insane. Like there's this like the genius pokes through. It doesn't get there too often, but like he still has it on that record. And then just the decline after that is so incredibly drastic. It's insane to see. Um, but yeah, great.
I thought for a
Okay.
second when you said I revisited Donda 2. I'm like, why'd you
No,
go back to
Donda
Donda
2 was
2?
awful. Donda 2 is just as bad. I gave Donda 2 a 5 actually,
Oh, wow.
which
So
is
same.
probably a little bit too mean, but
Yeah, that's fine.
at the same time I don't care. So yeah, that was that. We'll end on a good note because I didn't want to like go on a vultures rant and then just be like, okay, I'm done. Um, this one kind of came out of nowhere. I knew this was coming out, and I knew I wanted to check it out, but I think it hit me a lot harder than I expected it to, which is always a great sign when I do stuff like this. Navy Blue has a new record, Memoirs in Armor. Uh, this is he's kind of adjacent to like a Mike or a Kai
Mm.
Solo or Earl Sweatshirt when it comes to that. Um, that kind of alternative. I don't want to say experimental hip hop, but kind of in that range. Um, I've heard him on, I think, a lot of other artist projects. He's on a couple of Armor Hammer and Billy Woods projects. Um, and I was really interested to check out a full record from him because I have not yet. And he's got a pretty good catalog. It's just one of those I haven't dove into yet. So I'm like, I'm starting here. And it is fantastic. Like, I think the cover art drew me in immediately because this is a gorgeous album cover. But it's 25 minutes, 10 songs. It's very easy to get into. But it's got so the layers of it are so incredible. The production essential like it draws you in so quickly. It sounds like the album cover. It has this hazy, ethereal, kind of spiritual effect to a lot of the production, and it feels a little bit nostalgic, almost like a Twin Peaks esque landscape, almost, which is really, 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 really nice. But there's also like a jazz rap undertone to a lot of it. All the tracks flow really nicely together, and it's just like a really, really, really good ride. I would categorize this as like spiritual hip hop. There's a couple of artists like Mike where it's like you listen to their music and you get like this great sense of just like soul and warmth and spirit from those kind of records, and you get that here. Um, his rapping is really nice as well. A lot of great introspective lyrics and storytelling across of it. Um, this record kind of was not supposed to be an album. Apparently, he was signed to Def Jam, which was kind of crazy.
Oh,
I did not expect someone like him to be on Def Jam. I know he has like kind of a cult following online a little bit, um, but I didn't think he would get picked up by a major label like that, which is correct because he got dropped from Def Jam. And with that, they shelved an album that he spent 2 years on. So that won't come out because it's technically Def Jam's property, I believe. Um, so that album is just scrapped, which is awful. So this thing was like an 8-track EP that he repicked up after leaving Def Jam to kind of complete and release on his own, like independently. Um, and man, they made such a mistake with that. This thing has so much heart and soul to it. It There's just a feeling about this record that I just really gravitate towards, and it's been pretty addicting. I've This has been getting a lot more spins than the new Peggy record so far. It's just easier to get into, and I don't know, it's just really speaking to me at this point. But yeah, I love the story behind it. It's like really hard when you have like I didn't really know he was on Def Jam, nobody did, and then you just get dropped out of nowhere, and the project you've been working on for 2 years is just like gone. Um, he didn't skip a beat with this because this is genuinely like really fantastic. So I'm putting it like maybe top 3 hip hop album of the year. It's pretty high up
Ooh.
there. Could grow. It's something you just gotta listen to because the production itself is just so stellar. And we got people like child actor Nicholas Craven, Navy Blue himself does a little bit of production as well. Um, and yeah, it's great. I think La Noche, closing track, phenomenal, like perfect song, one of the best of this year. But yeah, check that out. Deserves a lot of love. It's apparent. It's a home cooked meal of a record, and it's incredibly refreshing. So, yeah, check it out. It's really good. But yeah, I think that concludes it. I think that's it out
That's
of all the
it?
news and things. Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I haven't listened to anything new. Interestingly, the album that I've been going back to the most out of this whole crazy everything's been coming out is Smile. Smile is
Okay.
like my favorite, which I think is weird because I think that Claro's charm should be like absolutely consuming my life right now
Mm-hmm.
when it's Porter Robinson. It's very surprising. I know I'll get to charm eventually, but
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it will eat me up inside eventually, but and not in a sex way. But Porter Robinson definitely is doing that to me in a sex way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is interesting though, because I have the same thing. Like Peggy just released an album, and I'm listening to this Navy Blue album a lot more than the Peggy album. And I'm like,
What's up with that?
this should not make sense.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. And I've also been going back to All Delighted People for
Mm-hmm.
no reason. I guess we just did Seven Swans. And
We
I'm
did.
like,
That'll be out eventually.
yes, eventually. I was like, I want to listen to Johara Joharia. And so I have been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good song. But too long. He should have made it 2 minutes long. It would have been a better song then.
Don't have time for that.
It's 17 minutes.
I'm a busy guy.
Yeah. I could put on an episode of the Joe Pera show and it would be done before that song is over.
Exactly.
And that's why long music is bad. That is an official statement endorsed by the Boy Time podcast. That is to say, please watch the Joe Pera show. It's very good. That's really what I want to endorse. Is there anything else? Next week, we're watching What Did Jack Do? Watch it. Also, check out our Peggy video, which is probably going to be coming out soon. And then Seven Swans, which will also be coming out soon. And also King Gizzard, which will be coming out next week. So, there you go. I think that's it, though. Bye!